So we are here to talk about life as foreplay, 5 ways to increase intimacy with your partner. And I have Tammy on, everybody. And Tammy is not only a Plant Empowered Coaching Program member, but she's also the creator of the website and blog marriedandnaked.com. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your website before we get started?
Well, Married and Naked started because my husband and I had some challenges in our marriage. We had gotten to a place where we thought we weren't going to be able to come out of. We were headed to divorce without the words actually coming out of our mouth, if that makes sense. And over the course of about 1.5 years or so, we had this massive transformation. And at the end of it, I could really pinpoint certain things that had transformed our marriage. And I just decided I wanted to share it with everybody. And I had always wanted to be a writer. So it was just a good opportunity for me to do something I always wanted to do and share in hopes to help other couples. So that's Married and Naked, with me being vulnerable and expressing and showing things that we had gone through. So lessons through my own marriage.
Amazing, which is exactly why I asked you to be on today. Because you're an expert, and I read, the responses. You kind of address some questions that people ask and give these incredible responses. So thank you for joining us and being willing to share with us as well. And what we're going to be sharing is, I said what we're going to be sharing, the top 5 ways that you can put yourself on the path to true intimacy with your partner. And that's whether you have one now. This is really for everybody, because whether you have one now or you are kind of in that place of looking to manifest one, this will apply to all of us and really help us in current relationships and to prepare for having and building a healthy relationship when we meet somebody that we want to do that with, which is something that I just recently did for the first time in 3 years. So that's been very exciting. Christian was on last week, and we've got Mia here. Welcome, Mia. All right, if I miss anybody when you come on, for some reason, sometimes it doesn't show me every comment, so that's frustrating, but Alyssa's here. We got Alyssa, Tammy.
Hi, Alyssa.
Another program member. So you just shared your story a little bit in a nutshell. Let's get to the first way. And then I'd love to kind of have you relate it back to your own experiences.
Okay.
Can you do that for us?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So then way number 1 to increase intimacy is understanding and respecting each other's top values and the needs surrounding those values, so that each of you can be fulfilled and support one another as you continue on your path of personal growth. And I'm also going to relate this back to veganism. I think a lot of times, a lot of these Facebook Lives don't seem to have a whole lot to do with the whole vegan aspect, but really they do. And it's funny because everybody in the program who comes in, they're either vegan or are transitioning, in the process of transitioning or wanting to move in that direction. And we still hardly talk about food, because food, it turns out to be the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sometimes forget to relate it back, but everything that we talk about absolutely has to do with veganism for many different ways. And we'll talk about this one particularly. But what would you say, Tammy, about this topic?
Well, I just wanted to share quickly a quick story. My husband and I, a while back, our number 1 argument, we were arguing all the time, was over money. We would just have these massive arguments over money. And I remember one time we were in Sacramento visiting his family, we're having this big argument, and I stomp off and I go to the bathroom and I'm just like so upset. Here we are again. And I had this moment of clarity. And that was that he's not going to change. And I had been putting so much time and energy in trying to change him. And it was making us both very unhappy. So in that moment, I realized that I needed to either move on with my life or choose to accept the man that I loved. And I really, in that moment, just chose to accept him. And with that, I really pursued a lot of understanding as to why those issues were there. Why did he feel the way he did about money? Why do I feel the way we did? And we had very clear reasons in our childhood as to why. And from that moment on, we didn't fight about money anymore, because I can approach our discussions in such a different manner And it comes from understanding rather than trying to judge him and change him. And not too long ago, that's been for many years, that's been part of our relationship and really has made a huge impact. But not too long ago, we have this adorable old couple that walks around our neighborhood. And I mean, they're old, and it's okay to say that, they're kind of hunched over. But what made them really special is every time you would see them, they'd be holding hands. And I mean, not one time that I saw them were they not holding hands. And my husband and I stopped them one day and we're like, you know, you guys are so amazing. How long have you been married? And they said 65 years. And we're like, what? That's so incredible. We were just, and of course my husband said, you know, so what's the secret? You know, what's the secret? And the husband, he joked about, oh, just say yes, dear. And we giggled or whatever. But then she said, her name was Maggie, and she said, the secret is I just choose to accept him just as he is. I don't try to change him. I accept him as he is. And I thought that was so validating for what I discovered, and also just so powerful that we put so much energy in trying to make other people be like us rather than really trying to understand them and accept them for who they are. So for me, that and our relationship, that has been really just such a massive thing in helping us really support each other's values.
Wow, 65 years.
Yeah.
You got to take that advice, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's amazing. And I think one of the many reasons that I had so many horrific relationships in my 20s and early 30s was because I didn't give myself enough space or worth to be me, to accept me.
Mm-hmm.
So much, forget about accepting other people. I was much better at that. I had my master's in social work. I was all about accepting and not judging and not making assumptions about people and loving everybody for who they are. But I was the only one I wasn't doing that for.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge realization that I was basically treating myself in the way that attracted other people to treat me poorly too, because that's how I was treating myself.
Yes, for
and
sure.
That's what's changed so dramatically. And also, and we've got Britta saying, yes, I think it is a very important topic to respect each other's core values in so many ways. So true, Britta. David said, thanks for the topic, much needed in my life as I can relate to my current situation. Yeah, I think this is a big one for so many people. And so because we're in this empowered vegan life group, we're about empowerment and veganism. And that was a value I've had since I was 7 years old, right? And for the longest time, I didn't allow myself to say, this is a value that I need my partner to share with me. And it caused so much havoc in those relationships. And this time around, when I came back to dating, I realized that this is my major core value. And I'm not going to be okay with somebody who doesn't have that also as one of their values. Because it's just such a center of who I am. And that's okay. And it's okay to be like that. And it's okay to say that, as opposed to pretending it's not.
Of course. Yeah.
Do you have any other examples?
I mean, you know, I just feel like you're coming from a place, or we're all coming from different places. Some of us have been in relationships or marriages for a long time. My husband and I just celebrated 20 years. And you know, others are looking for somebody, and others are just getting in. So it's all coming from a different place. For us, it was, we're in the midst of it. How do we make it work now? And others, like your experience, I've created, you know, I'm happy with who I am, and now it's time to find somebody who's going to fit those values that I have. So the veganism wasn't something for my whole life. It's something that is fairly new. So kind of a gradual process, but I think it's okay not to like everything about our spouses or our significant others. There's definitely things I don't like, that my husband's so frugal, you know, but I get it. And I'm sure my husband might want to go back to the days where maybe I ate meat, because maybe things weren't, you know, as challenging then for him. I don't know, but he has really worked to understand why it's important to me. And we've had many discussions about it, and that's where he's come from, is let me just understand and get it. And then it's so much easier for you to support each other So I've worked really hard not cramming it down anybody's, own values or shutting down their values, and just owning it for myself.
Yes.
And I think it's just so much easier to accept somebody when it comes from that place.
1,000%. And Mia asked, did you ever feel that by, quote, accepting his views the way they were, that you were letting go of your values? How do you balance the two? And I don't know if she was referring to me or you, but this is really different for each and every person.
For
and
sure.
That's why
Absolutely.
it takes so much self-exploration, self-discovery to figure out what you really need and want to be happy. And I am in no way saying that if you're vegan, you should not be with somebody who's not vegan. Of course. Yeah. That is not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that for me, this is my life, this is my passion. And I didn't allow myself to have that, to ask that, to try to find somebody who had that too.
Right.
That I was going to compromise, and I didn't want them to have to compromise.
Right.
But when I just realized that, I see meat, and the things that come up for me, that when I see meat and the visions, just because that's how I've always been, it's too much. It's just too much for me. So everybody's so different. Britta says, it is about understanding each other, I think, not about letting go of your values.
No, absolutely not. And that's not at all what I'm saying. And there's always things that are like deal breakers, right? There's certain things you should always expect in a relationship: love, trust, respect, all of that. I'm not referring to any of those, values. And I'm certainly saying withhold, your own dear to you. But if you can respect other people's, then it makes it so much easier for you to come to middle ground, rather than always trying to force your own thoughts and values on somebody else. Finding a middle ground makes it so much easier.
Right. And she's also said, if someone does not try to understand you, but instead expects you to change your core values, maybe it's not the right person for you.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And it's so cool that we're coming from such different places. I mean, so everybody can have a relate one way or another. All right, so let's move on to number 2. You guys can keep asking questions if you have more or comments. Way number 2 is positioning yourself so that you don't need each other to be healthy and happy, but that you want each other. And how I think about it is in a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of way. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
The way that my husband and I really do it is we really focus on fostering each other's interests outside of marriage, because I think it's really important to obviously be connected as a couple, but to be connected to yourself is vital in having a healthy, happy relationship. And speaking from a woman's perspective specifically, and that of a mom, I think it's very easy to get lost in who you are, and to lose yourself is very easy when you get thrown into these roles. You give everything you have to everybody else, and I think that tends to be very common. And then you suddenly look in the mirror and you're like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you like. I remember literally thinking that. I couldn't answer what I wanted with my life. I don't know what I want because I've given so much to everybody else. And so we've really learned to, and that led to all kinds of bitterness and, anxiety and depression. And it left like this hole in me of this feeling like I'm not feeling fulfilled. And I learned the value of wanting to have something that I call my own. I needed something for me. And really that's what led me to Married and Naked. I needed something that was just for me, that filled me, made me happy, and nobody else had to say so. It was just for me. And once I started doing that, then it gave me like permission, and the courage to start speaking up in other ways. I really want to go and work with a trainer, or I'm going to start this new program. I need support on that. So it allowed me to speak up. And so we just really work at fostering those separate interests that we have.
So powerful. That's amazing. Yeah. So for me, I spent the last 3 years up until last September, I realized that I wasn't good with me. I was still having issues with shame. I was hiding. I was I was struggling internally. I was not loving myself and accepting myself. And so I needed 3 years, which is, I guess it seems like a long time, but I needed that time to get good with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the universe like opened up once I hit that space. And I got back last September and I said, it's time. Like, I am ready. I am solid. Like, I am good with me. I can meet someone and not have a codependent relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I can meet somebody that we can love and accept and respect each other, because I love and accept and respect myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Christian and I started dating, and I realized that that's what was happening. And we're building an empire together. You've got your empire, I've got mine, and together, holy crap, it's going to be a huge empire, right?
That's
and
awesome.
it's such a powerful feeling to have a partner in life like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'm just loving that.
So fantastic.
Yes, I agree. Question, I just made me think, this is a little off track. We've got Johnny on, Johnny Rock from Sobe Kick. Hey, Johnny. So a lot of times, we do a consultation with everybody who joins the Plant Empowered Coaching Program, right? We want to make sure we understand your struggles, your needs, your vision, and feel really confident that it's a perfect fit, that we can get you what you need out of this program.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, and I'm talking 499 out of 500, the woman, if they are married, will say, I cannot make a decision. I have to go ask my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And 498 of those will come back with a no. And for me, I'm not married, and I understand that you have a certain, I don't want to say rules, but respectful ties to each other, and say, maybe if I'm going to spend more than this, then I need to ask you or speak with you. But it kind of breaks my heart, because some of these women are, their lives would change forever. It would, you know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And I try to coach them on how to talk to their husbands, instead of asking and telling them all about the program, but more to say, look, I've found something that I know is going to be right for me, that is going to help me and ultimately help our family. And I need your support in that sort of way. Do you have any thoughts? We haven't talked about this before. about that, and I don't know what your experience was exactly, but you've got
I have a very bad memory, but I remember that part of the call, because we had gotten down to it, making the actual decision, and I said, I need to discuss it with my husband, which I think obviously, every woman is probably going to want to do. But I remember saying that, and you told me exactly that. I just want you to know that, however many, 99 out of 100 will come back and say no. And for me, what I did was I thought about it for a minute, and I made the decision. I went ahead and did it, and took a very big step in courage, because for me, I knew with my husband, he was going to get it. I knew he was going to get it. So it was a leap of faith, and we certainly talked about it, and had I needed to back out, I would have done so. But I talked to him immediately after I got a phone. This is it. I gave him all the information. I told him about it. There was something about the way you approached things that really resonated with me. I went looking for a diet, and you weren't talking about food, and that was it. And so it's such a difficult thing, because I understand, I get it, and I respect that that they need to do that, and finances are a joint thing typically. So I don't know, it's a very hard decision to make, but I also feel like sometimes there is a sense of really needing to dig in. If it's something that with all your heart, it's going to change your life, then there's got to be strategies where you can dig in. And for me, it would be like, okay, I'm going to figure out our finances. I'm going to pull it all together, and I'm going to sit down, and we're going to go over what I've learned together. So I've had strategies, because I told you my husband's very frugal. So sometimes when
That's
it's a
what I
big
was wondering.
yeah, it's a big purchase like that, I'll go do all my research. I'll look at our finances. I'll figure it out how we can do it. And then I'll present and really just try to help him understand where I'm coming from. So I feel sad that, and maybe it's not always with the husband saying no. Maybe sometimes people get scared, and because it's a big commitment either way, with time, with emotion, like everything.
Yeah,
so,
energy.
Exactly. So I don't know. I know it takes a lot of courage to do that. And unfortunately, that's probably just the way it's going to be for some. But for the ones who really honestly think it will change their life, I hope that they will be able to step up and dig in a little bit and go for it.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those catch-22s. At the end of this 6 months, I feel like everybody would be empowered to be able to do that in a really positive way.
Yes.
And it's like they need the program to be able to do that, but they need to do the program to be able to get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, I just want to throw that out there. Number 3, we are moving on. Setting healthy boundaries so that you can make each other's self-care a priority. So so each person can make their own self-care a priority, because it's like that oxygen mask. You got to put yours on first before you can help others, right? And I think that's a really good analogy. I know it's a cliche and they use it all the time, but it's so true. If you're not caring for yourself, then there's no way you can give really yourself to another human being.
Right.
What has been your journey in that regard?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things for me is I talked a little bit about how I think women in general tend to maybe lose themselves when they step into relationships. And being a mom, I remember a time very clearly. Everything was just so overwhelming. I was so overwhelmed and tired and angry and exhausted, and it had gone on for a really long time. And I just had a breaking point with my husband in our little walk-in closet. I was just like, that's it. I have to get away. I need some time for me. I am desperate. And he's, worried because he's thinking, what do you mean? Are you leaving me? Like, what does this mean? Like, no, I just need to get away so bad. And I scheduled a 2 nights away from myself. And I had so much guilt, weighing on me and doing that. And just taking 2 days for myself, it like suffocated me. But after he understood my need for it, he pushed me out the door. Go, you need this. And it was the most amazing experience for me. And it just taught me that I have to put myself first, because otherwise I was a disaster. And just 2 days away, I came back feeling refreshed. I could tackle the things that were in front of me. And so I have made that an absolute priority for myself. And I do that twice a year. And I just feel the need. I encourage every woman to, if you can't get away overnight, shut yourself in your room, lock the door, for hours at a time. Like, you desperately need that time to recharge. And so that has just become a big part in understanding myself. And I respect my husband's need in his own way for his own self-care, and his is basketball. And it used to irritate me so bad that he would always be gone playing basketball. Why are you leaving me for basketball?
Right.
But he said, I need it. It makes me feel happy. I love the exercise. I love the camaraderie. And once I understood it, I was like, okay. And now it's 3 times a week. He's playing basketball and I'm his biggest supporter. Get out there and do it. It makes you happy. So it just comes down to, again, understanding yourself and your need, and then supporting your spouse and doing the exact same thing. I mean, who wouldn't want your spouse to be happier and feel sexier because they're getting time for themselves? Yeah.
So true. Alyssa, I'm losing some of the comments. Where are they going? Alyssa, it's gone now, but she talked about how she kind of used her husband as a scapegoat. So for you guys watching, Alyssa's just graduated from the program. She's going to our next program, and yay, game changers.
Yes.
Yes, I was working on it today. And she said she needed to look at the finances and talk to her husband, but that she used him a little bit as a scapegoat because she was fearful, and that was an easy way to say, an easy out to buy herself some time.
Right.
So it's less about the spouse and more about yourself and your own fears.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's a big part. I really do, because it is an easy out. And then you get to think about it and analyze it. And then, oh no, this is too much. Yeah.
All your limiting
fears. The whole reason you're going in to work on those, and all those are just like attacking you at that moment.
Exactly. Yeah. When you're on the call and you're really,
Yes.
by the end of the call,
Yes.
you know if it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the fear is just sometimes too overwhelming. And
Yes.
what happens when you get off the phone is that feeling of I know this is right starts to fade, because you were programmed with the fear to make your decisions for you.
Mm-hmm.
And now you don't have a coach there helping you to break through that fear.
Right, exactly.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
Stuff. Britta said, if you are the person who gives all the time, there will be the moment that you are so drained, you feel you can't give anymore because you don't get much back. This is why it is important to give yourself time for yourself so you can enjoy your time together.
Absolutely. And I get some pushback, but I really think you have to be the priority. Everything else will come, but you must put yourself first, and so that you can do all those things. Yeah.
And I find myself, because I'm still putting myself first, I've got the things that I know give me energy and make me feel good. I get back and I want to do nicer things, and I want to do special things for Christian. And it's like, not like oh, I should, or I need to. It's like, I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have that, it's vice versa like that. And then all of a sudden you're doing sweet, nice things for each other because you want to.
Right.
You should. Okay, moving on. Are you okay on time, Tammy? We're running a little.
I'm good. Whatever you need.
Cool. Way number 4 is fostering healthy communication. Of course, we knew communication needed to be in there. Right. It involves taking ownership of your own thoughts and feelings. That's a big one for us in the program, is because we're trying to get out of victim mentality, right? And we're trying to step into our power. Yes. And to do that, we can't say that somebody else causes how we feel. Right. We get to feel how we feel. Like, that's our responsibility, no matter what anybody else says or does around us. But then to be able to express yourself and use the power of the pause. I talk about the power of the pause a lot. It's that pause that you can give yourself to take a deep breath, to not react, and instead respond intentionally. And so you don't get to that point of regretting what you just did because you just did it out of impulse. Yeah. What are your thoughts about communication?
Well, communication is like the thing, right? When you come to relationships, and it's so difficult because you know, when you're coming to a relationship, we are all ingrained with who we were or how we grew up or how they communicated in your household and things that you learned. And then you're bringing those two different things together and trying to figure out how do we make this work, because we have completely different communication styles. So it's obviously a huge deal, and it's just an ongoing, I think, forever kind of process and learning better and better and better communication. It's something I'm always working on, and I think I always will be. For us, I think one of the most important things that we discovered was the idea of accountability, which is similar to what you were saying, and really owning up to your own thoughts and actions, where we would play a whole lot of the blame game. And all of our arguments or conflicts, which we had a lot of, would always come down to that. You did this wrong. You did this to me. It's your fault we're here. And through that course of, like I said, the 1.5 years we had this transition, I just really realized that that was not serving my relationship anymore. So I have ditched blame game altogether. We don't use it anymore. Instead of pointing fingers, and I know it's easy to say, but it's not easy to do, but I really do practice it, and I believe in the power. Instead of pointing fingers, I always look here. I have to look within, because it doesn't serve. The minute I start to say, it's your fault, their defenses are up, you're just fighting more, it doesn't help. So accountability is huge in our relationship. I always look to myself. If something's not going the way I want, or he's not doing something the way I want, I'm looking to myself. What is it I've done to contribute to where we are, and what is it I can do to help move us out of it, or move me out of it? So that's been a really big deal for us, is accountability.
That's huge. That's huge. And I think one practical, my mom used to always tell me growing up, she was a preschool teacher, she was the director of a preschool for 40 years, the same preschool. And they really worked on empowering language. And we're big on language in the program, getting rid of disempowering language, but using I statements, you know, just if you're programmed to say you, easy, just start with I. So I feel that way. Whatever he's doing, you're not saying you did this to me.
Right.
He did something and here's how you feel about it.
Yep.
There's no blame. Right. And so just starting your statements with I, it's a very easy, simple way to start moving in that direction if that's a challenge for you and your relationship. For sure. Britta said, what you say reminds me of something I read recently. It was about creating a zone for each other in which both can feel safe and connected. That's beautiful.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then Jamie said something, the comments are like disappearing. I got to figure out that better next time, but she talked about refilling your cup. Yeah. Right? And that's on the way number 3. Okay, fantastic. So communication, huge, using I statements, taking responsibility. And one other thing I wanted to point out is I'm definitely a recovering people pleaser.
Oh, I am too.
Yes, I knew that. Yes, and so sometimes even still, it's hard for me to say things that I'm thinking might hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
And so I say it, you know, differently, or I don't say it at all, and then it builds up, and then resentment forms. That's the thing about us people pleasers. We give, and don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and don't want to rock the boat until we can't do it anymore, and then things blow up.
For sure. I had a very specific experience with that when my husband, we work from home, so he would go and he'd sleep in, and I would get up and take the kids to school. And I'm an early riser, it's just my nature. So every morning I'd be up getting the kids ready, he would sleep in, and then we'd go about our work day. And over time, I just felt myself this little bit of bitterness. And eventually I exploded, like, why are you don't help me at all, you know, you're not helping me. And he's like, wait a minute, I didn't realize that was something that was bothering you. I just thought you were an early riser and that was okay. So he didn't even know that all this. So I think that that's so important, especially for us people pleasers, is to get that courage to say it, because sometimes they really honestly don't know, and they're not trying to hurt you, you know, or whatever it is about, but yeah.
Absolutely. I can think of a million examples, but just the other week we were out to dinner, and so I eat very slow. We really work on mindful eating, being present. Mia says, people pleaser here. Yes, I think so. I mean, everybody in our program is a people pleaser. But we're out to dinner, right? And so I took some, we had a plate that we're sharing, and I took some off and put it on my plate, and I started eating it, and he kind of pulled the whole dish over and just starts eating, and like just takes it all down. And I'm sitting there like, this is not all I was gonna eat of that. And I'm like, how rude, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, it's rude, does he not care that I'm gonna be hungry, like blah, blah, blah. And it was so hard for me to figure out how to tell him that. But once we got it out in the open, he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought we had talked about, you know, you taking what you want off, and then I'll know how much to eat if you take your diet off. And I was like, no, that was just like an appetizer. And then we got to laugh about it, and we, you know, have a new strategy for next time so it doesn't happen. And if I had kept that to myself, which is totally what I would have done in the past, then that would have just bubbled up inside of me.
Yep. I can so relate. Yep.
Yeah, it's these little like seemingly little things.
It can be huge, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to number 5. This is obviously a very very popular topic, so we might have to have you back on, Tammy, to further. Awesome. Way number 5 is play. Play together, play life like a game, choose adventure, you know, use humor. You said play sexy games. And well, you know what, can we have you back to talk about, we're talking more about emotional intimacy today, Would you mind coming back and talking more about the physical intimacy as well?
Absolutely. I would love to.
Would you guys listening like to hear that? I'd love to hear if that was a big one. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that's going to be a big one too. So yes, what's your, after how many years? 20 years of marriage?
Yes.
How do you play?
Well, we went to a time where we didn't, and that all came to a head at that very same time. And one of the things I realized is it's been so long since we spent any like quality time away together. So we took a cruise, despite all my, insides telling me, don't leave the kids for that long, you can't do this, but I did it. And it was amazing. It was incredible. And on the way back from that cruise, I remember us talking like, how are we going to carry this home? How are we going to bring this feeling home of this connection? And one thing we decided to do was have date nights. And I know we hear that all the time, but for us, it was, I don't want to have to get a babysitter. It's too complicated and it costs money. What we're going to do is date night after the kids go to bed, just us. And that's what we did once a week. We would shut it all down and we would play sexy games. I looked all kinds of games. We would ask each other conversation starters, like 20 questions. And it just really helped us maintain that connection throughout the week, because it's so easy to lose it during the week with all the things. So it really helped us maintain that connection. It's become a really integral part of who we are. We went and had date night last week overnight, and that night we played heads up, charades. So, and that was so much fun. We just had a blast. It's such a silly little thing, but we'll turn like games like blackjack into, sexy game like strip blackjack or something, something like that. And I think that it's just such a vital part of connection. So I understand that, we think of play as adults, it's something that doesn't come natural to us anymore. We have to work at it. And I think if you want to maintain a healthy relationship, to think of it as a way to maintain connection. That is why it's a priority. So even though it's maybe uncomfortable or you don't know what to do, put it on there, and then just remember that you're doing it for the sake of connection. And that will help carry you through and just having a much happier relationship.
Yeah, all these things relate in so many ways, communication by playing some of those games. We found like some sort of a sex game, but they have cards that really just help you talk about, different topics that you wouldn't just probably sit around and talk about.
Right.
So that's communication and play, because we had fun with it. So yeah, I think play is huge, and it's something that I know a lot of people lose, like start out in that playful state.
Yes.
And as life comes and kids and stress, and that can kind of fizzle out.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you can't get it back.
Absolutely. And I think one of the rules for us that we started with was make sure that we set up rules, because this is how we didn't know what we were doing anymore. It was so gone. But one of our rules was we couldn't talk about the kids, money, or work on our date nights. So that's what forced us to go to 20 questions, because we're like, what do we talk about? We don't even know what to talk about anymore, like you do when you're first getting to know somebody. So I think setting those kind of things up, because then it really sets you up for truly connecting, rather than getting distracted on things that are bothering you or things that are trigger points for arguments, making it a true quality time.
Such a good point. Fantastic. I can't wait to have our talk on physical intimacy. Fun, you guys. All right, so we got our ways 1 through 5 real quick. Understanding and respecting each other's top values was number 1. Positioning yourself so that you don't need each other, but you want each other in a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of way. Setting healthy boundaries, fostering healthy communication, and playing. So those are our 5. I think that was a fantastic talk. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thank you, Ella.
And so you guys that are listening, we did talk quite somewhat about the program and about how that process works, and about the breakthrough call as being the first step. So if the stuff we're talking about in all of my Facebook Lives resonates with you, and you feel it, it's almost like the people who join the program just kind of feel it in their hearts.
Oh yeah.
That this is the right move to make.
Yes, for sure.
So if that's you and you feel, and this is, people are like, oh, it's a sales call. I get the fear there, but no, it's about exploring, and we will not even invite you into the program, to be honest with you, if we don't feel like it's a good fit. So if that's interest to you, you guys do that breakthrough session. I will put the link in the comments as well. Life is too short. It's so short.
Go for it. Yeah.
Go for it. Just go for it. All right. Thanks again, Tammy. Have a beautiful day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and commenting and participating. Love you guys.
Bye.
See you back in the group. Bye.